Did you know that over 1.2 million immigrants in the UK are now at risk of losing basic rights they once took for granted? And that's not a rumour, it's happening right now in 2025, thanks to one of the toughest immigration overhauls in decades. Imagine working legally in the UK for years, and suddenly being told you can't bring your spouse, or that your visa is no longer valid because your salary isn't high enough, or worse, being denied access to NHS care because you missed a payment. These aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a sweeping wave of strict new immigration rules that are already affecting thousands of families, students, and skilled professionals. Some have even been forced to leave the country, despite following all the rules until the rules changed. The UK government says it's about reducing net migration, but behind that headline are real people, real struggles, and real consequences. The rules are tighter, the process is stricter, and the penalties are harsher than ever before. So, what exactly has changed, and what 10 things are immigrants now no longer allowed to do in the UK? You're about to find out. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the end. Some of these changes are shocking, some are heartbreaking, and others are just plain unbelievable. If you or someone you know is living in the UK, this video could change everything. Number 1. Bring dependents on certain visa types. As of 2025, one of the most impactful changes for immigrants in the UK is the ban on bringing dependents for many visa holders. Previously, individuals arriving under categories like the health and care worker visa, skilled worker visa, or even student visa could bring their spouse and children along. Now, UK immigration policy has tightened dramatically. Under the updated rules, only high-earning professionals or those working in government-approved shortage occupations are eligible to bring dependents. For example, a nurse working in the NHS may qualify, but a care assistant employed in a private home may not. This creates a significant emotional burden, especially for those who plan to start families or reunite with loved ones while contributing to the UK economy. Students, particularly those in one-year postgraduate courses, are now prohibited from bringing dependents unless they are studying specific research-based programs. This affects thousands of international students who previously relied on the opportunity to keep their family unit intact during their education abroad. The stated reason behind this change is to reduce net migration, a long-standing political issue in the UK. However, critics argue that it could lead to a brain drain, pushing talented professionals to choose more immigrant-friendly countries. If you're considering a move to the UK under a Tier 2 work visa or a graduate route, it's essential to check the updated eligibility criteria. Bringing your dependents may no longer be possible unless your job title and salary level meet the new requirements. This change marks a clear shift in the UK's immigration stance, prioritising individual workers over family migration. Number 2. Switch visas while in the UK for certain categories. In 2025, the UK government introduced new restrictions that now limit visa switching from inside the country. Previously, many immigrants could change their visa type without leaving the UK, such as moving from a student visa to a skilled worker visa or from a visitor visa to a family route. This flexibility has now been severely reduced. Under the updated rules, certain categories, especially students, temporary workers and visitors, are now required to leave the UK before applying for a new visa. The idea behind this is to tighten immigration control and reduce what officials call side door migration routes. Essentially, the government wants to prevent individuals from entering on one visa and quietly shifting their status without fully being vetted from outside the UK. This change has significant consequences. A student who finishes their degree and receives a job offer can no longer easily switch to a skilled worker visa without first returning to their home country. The same applies to someone visiting the UK who wants to apply for a family visa. They must now exit the country and apply from abroad. This policy causes major disruptions. It increases travel expenses, adds waiting time, and creates uncertainty, especially when jobs or family situations require quick action. It also discourages talented individuals who might otherwise contribute to the economy but find the system too inconvenient. If you're currently in the UK and considering a change in visa status, double check whether your category allows in-country switching. If not, prepare for the process of leaving the UK, submitting your application from abroad, and then re-entering under the new visa, a step that's now mandatory for many. Number 3. Claim benefits or access public funds. One of the most restrictive changes in the UK's 2025 immigration policy affects access to public funds. Immigrants under most visa categories are now explicitly barred from claiming state benefits in emergency situations. This includes a wide range of support such as universal credit, housing benefit, child benefit, and even certain forms of disability support. Previously, some immigrants with long-term residency or specific visa types could access limited welfare assistance, especially during hardships. But under the new framework, almost all non-citizens are required to sign a clause confirming they have no recourse to public funds. This legal term now appears in more visa decisions than ever before. Even those who have lived in the UK for several years, paying taxes and contributing to the economy, are finding themselves excluded from help. This has raised concerns among human rights advocates, who argue the rules can leave vulnerable individuals, including low-income families, single parents, and even refugees, without any safety net. What makes this change even more impactful is that applying for public funds illegally can now lead to visa cancellation, deportation, or a ban on re-entry. The UK Home Office is using data matching systems to track benefit claims against immigration records, leaving very little room for mistakes or misunderstandings. If you're an immigrant living in the UK, it's critical to understand what counts as a public fund and whether your visa status allows any access. Even receiving indirect support, such as housing through local councils, can be flagged. Knowing your legal limits isn't just helpful, it's now essential for protecting your immigration status in the UK's increasingly strict environment. Number 4. Work in the UK without salary. Threshold compliance. In 2025, one of the most talked about immigration changes in the UK is the new salary threshold enforcement. Immigrants can no longer work legally unless their job meets the minimum salary requirement, which has now been raised significantly for most visa types. This shift directly impacts those under the skilled worker visa, health and care visa, and other sponsored employment routes. The base salary threshold has been increased to £38,700 per year, a major jump from the previous £26,200. Even in sectors facing worker shortages like hospitality, transport, and social care, the government has tightened the criteria. While certain shortage occupations may qualify for a slightly lower threshold, the rules are now stricter, with fewer job titles making the list. Many immigrants who were previously working legally under older salary bands may now be disqualified, unless their employer adjusts their wages or re-sponsors them under the updated policy. This creates a dilemma, especially for small businesses that can't afford sudden pay increases. Employers are now required to certify that each sponsored worker is paid at or above the threshold, or risk losing their sponsorship license. Likewise, employees found to be earning below the legal minimum may face visa cancellation or be refused renewal during extension applications. If you're already in the UK or considering a move, it's critical to check the updated salary lists published by the Home Office. Even if your job is in demand, you must meet the financial benchmark to stay compliant. These changes highlight the government's push to prioritise high-wage roles, limiting access for lower-paid workers who have long filled essential positions across the country. Number 5. Apply for social housing. As of 2025, immigrants in the UK face a strict prohibition on applying for social housing, regardless of how long they've lived or worked in the country. The government has tightened eligibility rules, reserving council housing almost exclusively for British citizens and indefinite leave to remain (ILR) holders. This means that even long-term tax-paying immigrants on work visas or family routes are now excluded from public housing support. Previously, immigrants under certain family reunion, refugee, or humanitarian protection routes could apply for local authority housing if they met basic requirements. Now, most temporary and even some permanent residents are being denied access. Local councils are under instruction to prioritise applicants with full residency rights, citing a need to manage limited housing stock more effectively. This change has a major impact on low-income families, single parents, and even working professionals who struggle with the UK's rising private rental prices. In cities like London, Birmingham, and Manchester, where rents have soared, access to affordable housing was often a lifeline for many. Additionally, applying for social housing while being ineligible can now trigger immigration reviews, fines, or even removal proceedings. This has created fear and uncertainty, especially among those unfamiliar with the updated laws. The government's justification centres around the idea of fairness for British citizens, but critics argue that it marginalises contributing members of society who already face high living costs and often work in essential sectors. If you're an immigrant renting in the UK, be aware that turning to local council housing offices is no longer a viable option unless you have settled status. Understanding your tenancy rights in the private market has now become more crucial than ever. Number 6. Access free NHS services without surcharge. Starting in 2025, immigrants in the UK can no longer access NHS services for free unless they've paid the mandatory Immigration Health Surcharge, IHS. This fee is now a non-negotiable requirement for almost all visa holders, including those on student, work, and family visas. Even temporary visitors staying more than 6 months are now expected to contribute. The IHS has increased significantly from £624 per year to £1,035 per year for adults, and from £470 to £776 for children. This means a family of 4 could pay over £3,500 annually just to access routine healthcare services. This includes visits to GPs, emergency care, prescriptions, and hospital treatments that were previously subsidised or free. Many immigrants mistakenly believe they are entitled to NHS care because they pay national insurance contribution through work. However, under the new law, those contributions do not cover healthcare unless the IHS is also paid. Without proof of payment, individuals may be denied non-emergency treatment, even for serious conditions. Additionally, the government has implemented a centralised database to track IHS payments. NHS systems are now linked with Home Office records, making it nearly impossible to access care without being flagged. Those who fail to pay or whose surcharge expires mid-visa may face penalties, including visa curtailment, application refusal, or a ban on future entry. For immigrants planning long stays in the UK, budgeting for the IHS is now as important as planning for rent or tuition. If you're on a temporary visa, make sure to renew your surcharge payments when extending your stay. Without it, even basic medical services like a blood test or X-ray could come with an unexpected and unaffordable bill. Number 7. Sponsor family members for residency easily. In 2025, the UK has made it significantly more difficult for immigrants to sponsor family members for residency. While sponsoring a spouse, or partner, or child was once more accessible under family reunification laws, new financial rules have made the process tougher than ever. The most notable change is the sharp rise in the minimum income requirement. Sponsors must now earn at least £29,000 per year, up from the previous £18,600. This threshold is set to increase further in stages, making it nearly impossible for low-income workers to bring their loved ones to the UK. This new rule applies to UK citizens and permanent residents as well, not just visa holders. So even a British national who wants to sponsor a foreign spouse must now meet the same income demands. The required income must be proven through official payslips, tax records, or employment letters, and savings alone are rarely accepted unless exceeding £88,500. For many immigrants, this creates a heartbreaking situation. If they fall even slightly below the threshold, their spouse or children may be denied entry. Regardless of the relationship's legitimacy, appeals are costly, time-consuming, and often unsuccessful under the new rules. Additionally, the government no longer accepts third-party financial support from relatives or sponsors living in the UK. Everything must be based on the main applicant's individual earnings, making it harder for families to rely on shared income or community help. If you're planning to bring family to the UK, it's essential to confirm that you meet the updated financial criteria. Even long-term residents with stable jobs may now fall short under the stricter definitions. This shift signals the government's effort to prioritise self-sufficiency over family unity in the immigration process. Number 8. Use the 10-year route to settlement without interruption. In 2025, one of the most significant changes to UK immigration policy involves the 10-year route to settlement. Previously, immigrants living legally in the UK for 10 continuous years on any combination of valid visas could apply for indefinite leave to remain, ILR. Now, the rules have become stricter and less forgiving. The new law states that any gap in immigration status, even as short as 1 day, will now reset the 10-year clock. This means if your visa expires and isn't renewed before the deadline, or if there's a delay in your next visa approval, you'll have to start the entire 10-year period over from the beginning. This change impacts thousands of people who've been living in the UK legally, working, studying, or raising families. A missed deadline, even due to Home Office processing delays, could destroy years of progress toward permanent residency. Previously, minor gaps were sometimes overlooked or excused under discretionary policies. Now, immigration officers are instructed to enforce the timeline strictly, with no leniency for administrative issues or human error. This rule applies across all visa categories: student, work, family, or even private life routes. If there's a break in continuity, your future ILR application may be denied, forcing you to remain on temporary visas indefinitely. To avoid losing your status, it's critical to keep track of visa expiry dates, submit extensions early, and ensure there are no overlaps or rejections. Many are now turning to immigration lawyers just to maintain their legal track record. If you're on the 10-year path, your immigration history must now be flawlessly uninterrupted. One small gap can cost you years of time, money, and the chance to settle permanently in the UK. Number 9. Start a business without a specific innovator or startup visa. In 2025, immigrants in the UK are no longer allowed to start a business unless they hold a business-specific visa, such as the Innovator Founder Visa or the Startup Visa. This marks a major shift from previous years, where individuals on student, skilled worker, or spouse visas could often launch small businesses as sole traders, limited companies, or freelancers. Now, even if you have a full-time job under a work visa, you cannot legally register a company, offer paid freelance services, or engage in self-employed activity without first switching to the proper visa category. The UK government has made it clear that only those who have gone through a strict vetting process, including business plan evaluations and financial backing requirements, are eligible to operate commercially. These changes aim to curb misuse of visa conditions and ensure that only applicants with credible business ideas and investment potential are allowed to contribute to the UK's entrepreneurial ecosystem. However, it also shuts out many talented professionals who may have viable ideas but lack formal business immigration status. Violating this rule, even unknowingly, can lead to visa cancellation, deportation, or a ban on future applications. HMRC and the Home Office have begun cross-referencing tax records, business registrations, and visa statuses to catch individuals operating outside their legal bounds. If you're already in the UK and considering launching a side hustle or freelance gig, make sure your visa explicitly allows self-employment. Otherwise, switching to a business-endorsed visa route is your only option. This new rule reinforces the UK's stance. Starting a business is now considered a privilege, not a general right, for immigrants under the current immigration system. Number 10. Study while on a work visa without permission. In 2025, new restrictions now prohibit immigrants on work visas from enrolling in educational courses unless they obtain official permission from the Home Office or unless their visa conditions explicitly allow it. Previously, it was common for skilled workers or other employed migrants to take part-time classes or evening courses without needing additional approval. That is no longer the case. Under the new regulations, anyone on a skilled worker visa, health and care visa, or temporary worker visa must first check their visa conditions before enrolling in any form of study. This includes online courses, vocational training, language classes, and even professional certifications. Without permission, participating in such programs is now considered a breach of visa terms. The government's aim is to ensure that immigrants focus on the work roles they were sponsored for, rather than using a work visa as a backdoor route to education. However, the change significantly affects career progression, especially for those who seek to upskill, change professions, or pursue qualifications relevant to their field. Breaking this rule, even unknowingly, can lead to visa cancellation, deportation, and a ban on re-entry. Employers are also required to report any sponsored workers they believe may be engaged in unauthorized study. If you're already working in the UK and thinking about taking a course, even part-time, it's essential to contact your visa sponsor and review your BRP, biometric residence permit, or visa letter. Some visas explicitly ban study, while others require a separate application for permission. This regulation highlights the UK's growing emphasis on strict visa compliance and makes it clear that immigrants must follow not only where they work, but also how they learn under the country's immigration laws. The UK's 2025 immigration changes aren't just about policy, they're about people. People who came here with dreams, worked hard, followed every rule, and built lives, only to wake up to a system that's now pushing them back. These 10 changes have reshaped what it means to be an immigrant in the UK. They affect families, workers, students, and even long-term residents who've contributed for years. Whether it's the heartbreak of not being able to bring your spouse, the stress of salary thresholds, or the fear of losing healthcare access, the message is clear. The rules have changed, and staying informed is no longer optional. It's survival. But here's the good news. You're now one step ahead. By watching this video, you've armed yourself with the truth most people are still unaware of. And that knowledge can help you plan smarter, avoid costly mistakes, and protect your future. We're committed to giving you the real facts, in plain English, with no fluff, just like this video. So if you found this helpful, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with anyone who needs to know the truth. We put hours into researching, scripting, and editing these videos. So if it helped you, help us back with just one click. Hit that subscribe button. It costs nothing but means the world to us. And tell us in the comments, which of these changes shocked you the most or affected you personally? We'd really love to hear your story.